Oh my gosh, it's Friday. It's Friday, and it's like the last day of October on someone's little Gregorian calendar. Anyway, it's exciting to be here, isn't it? I think there's so many things going on. You can like talk about the Atlas. You can talk about the nine, things with the Atlas. It's pretty exciting. People are changing everywhere. We're going to see dramatic changes in the way people start living, gifting, barter, getting relocated back to the earth. So not everything has to be a tragedy. We can look at kind of the silver linings to all of this stuff. So I'm pretty excited here. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is what you see actually right behind me here. We're going to talk a little bit here about yoni steams and vaginal period steaming. And basically, what it is? It's a herbal steam smudge. So one of the things in here that's always important to have here is not to put your hand on it. So that's the first rule of thumb. And anyway, one of the things you can do is get either glassware or how many people have got like those stainless steel bowls? Those are great. That you do salad in, you go to the dollar store. So there's another option you guys can do. I mean, how many people can get this or some visionware or whatever? So basically what you're doing, you're going to boil up some tea. Okay. And so you can put your tea in here. You can put it with loose tea. So that's an option. Everyone goes, which tea should I do? I said, whatever you want. Put your loose tea in here. So one of the things I've done is actually, I've got a mixture here. I've got tea bags. And then what I also have, you guys, is a mixture that I always make. Or if you're going to get lazy, you can go buy it and pay 10 times the price. So there are places on there where they go, yes, you can get yoni steam herbs. But how many people can't get calendula? How many people can't get lavender tea, dandelion tea, mugwort, motherwort, Vitex, chaste, whatever you want is in here. So these are some of the things in there. And of course, you see all that delicious red. I mean, they always want to look juicy. And those are actually rose petals. So, I mean, there are so many different things you can put in. I could go to the backyard right now and literally go get some spruce, fir, pine, dig up some dandelions, get some, mullein, whatever you want. Don't think that you have to buy stuff. A lot of stuff that you have around here, flowers or things like that, you can certainly put in here. So that's another thing. And like I said, or get a, relaxed tea or a weight loss tea or a meditation tea or whatever you might have. Some people have got different things here like spearmint tea or stevia bark or whatever I might have, alfalfa tea. There's nothing to say that you can't put, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got one that I actually put 30 herbs on today. So I just actually had a client in here not too long ago. And that's why I decided, we're going to be doing steaming because, these are people. Actually, it's interesting. She took herbology class. And I was like, really? So I said, well, we're going to use it this way. They look at me, they go, what? Usually most people go, what, Karen? Anyway, so formally it's called peri-steam hydrotherapy. For men, they call it a resume steam. There are at least 4 schools of basically peri-steam hydrotherapy, or also in Eastern terms, we call it the yoni steam. Okay, yoni, basically the love, that we have as women, right? It's a nurturing, it's coming back to all the mothers, right? So, it's like being almost re-virginized. That's actually what I assimilate it to. And it's not just limited to women, right? We do it for men. I've done actually cats and dogs. So I made like a little steam chair here and I've actually put this in here. So I've got steam venting in here and I'll put a cat or a dog and I put them in actually a carrier cage, like a cage for them. And then we just put a big blanket over top. So we made basically like what would be like in the old days, like a sweat lodge, like an oxygen tank. So those are some of the really cool things that I've done there. So anyway, that is something that, most people have never seen, right? So there we go. This is a chair that I actually made. I went to something up here called Canadian Tire or Crappy Tire or whatever you want to call it up here. I literally got this chair and I think it was like about $15 or $20. And I literally went, there's a wood one you can get or kind of a plastic. I've had people cut out the plastic one. I find for my preference, I like at least a 7-inch hole here, right? So going on the diameter 7 by 7, not to say that you can do a square. I've seen people do it in a heart. I've seen them do it in a diamond shape, whatever you want, get the jigsaw and have fun. Because this was metal, I had to go to a metal place that does fencing and stuff. So that cost me a little bit more. But as a rule, Canadian Tire, Rona, and a lot of these places actually will actually do it for free. So that's actually how simple that was. And I wanted something because I came up with it because I was on the road all the time. So I actually have 2 of these. And one is I can have it for myself. I've actually had steam parties here where we've had like 3, 4 girls sitting around here, right? That was how they did women's lodges. That's the red tent. That's the way we should be doing it. And so these are some different options. If you haven't tried this, I want you to think about it. So the other option is we've got this like boiling up in here, right? And so this is what I've done here is I've actually gotten, like I just showed you, just like I put here with the tea bag, or whatever. You can just simply boil it up. And what are the things I put in there? I like to put essential oils. So one of the things that you could boil it up and do kind of a facial steam if you want, or just sit backwards. I've done this here on the floor and just put a big blanket over my head. It's like I was a child going into my little genie fort, right? Into the genie cave or my bear cave, right? And then I actually started doing like a facial smudge. You can also have it in here on the hot plate. And why am I using the hot plate? Of course, you guys know it's going to keep it hot. What do? Because if I just boil this up on the stove, which is great, you'll get about 5 minutes, maybe 10. You'll be pushing it. And the idea is to have it warm and misty, not like hot and burn your like delicate parts down there, whether you're a man or a woman. But what happens, and I've done peds too, by the way. I sat with a lot of children that are like, 4 years old, and they sat with Auntie Karen, and we all had our little steam party. So what I did for her is I actually got a little wood stool about that high. And then we just cut, like a handle would be, right? So we just cut a little hole up. And so we just put her little bowl underneath like this under the stool, and she would sit underneath it. So one of the other options too is that people, if you've got, let's say like a toilet or something like that, the other option here, if you were actually in the bathroom, what you can do is actually even cut one of these bowls out here, and you can see how nice it sits flush. So you could even just have it. So what this could also be done with, as you're seeing, what looks like this is a commode chair. So a lot of people have basically repurposed commode chairs or the medical kind of wheelchair, or if they, they had something there that they need to use here for toileting and stuff. So those are some of the really cool things I've done. And I really like doing simplistic things. People make things way too complicated. So again, how difficult is that to throw 1 or 2, tea bags in there? And then people go, well, what else do you put in? I said, well, sometimes I put salts in. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll put in some essential oils. So I'll put in a couple drops of essential oils. And, well, which ones do you use? Everyone says. So, of course, I'm like, well, lavender and spruce and fir and pine. And I like actually peppermint. There are some schools that don't like the hydrotherapy or the hydrosols or the essential oils. And frankly, I don't care because I like it. And so you can make your own thing. I have an oil blend here of about 30 oils. And I usually put it into there or on me or in capsules. So one of the things, and I have done many shows, everyone goes, oh, I don't have time for this. Like, Jesus, Karen, that's like half an hour. Like, that's like, half an hour, 40 minutes. I don't have time for this. Make this your computer chair. Do you know I've actually done shows and actually been a guest on people's shows, and you only see us from here up anyway, or I'm working at, the computer or whatever it might be. But this is my computer chair. So right now it's doing double duty, and I really like that. So you don't have to take time out of your busy schedule, to do this. So this is one of the things, again, work with what you got. One of my girlfriends she was just so innovative. I can't believe it. She used like bamboo, like, Chinese when you steam, she used bamboo steamers. She used also like a 5-gallon painter's plastic pail and put a, hole in it at the bottom so she could get her steam thing in. I've seen people use noodles. I know there's so many different things. I'm going to screen share here in a bit and just show you some different fun things that I've done. So why not? And you got to be creative. You got to think literally out of the box, literally out of the box. So if you want to look at some of these, you can get these actually Yoni Steam books, and they're actually on Amazon. Okay. If you want, let me tell you, it was more about their affirmations and everything else, and creating that sacred space and using the air, using the fire, using the water, and using your energy and your spirit. So it was actually, using it from a feng shui kind of point of view in here. And then also, where women come together and all steam together. Women that steam together stay together. Let me tell you, it creates a new kind of bonding like you've never had here. And it creates so much balance and stuff. So it's more of a workbook, more of an, working yourself through things, different issues in your tissues, so to speak. But I really want to go into what you can do in here, because there is a physical part. And so a lot of people, when they wanted to do this wombstration or, womb story, whatever you want to say, they would do it before, after their periods. They would do it prior to having intercourse or lovemaking. They did it for a lot of reasons, just because they wanted to feel better. They used it for parasite cleansing, for detoxing. So they worked it with the cycles on there. And the one time they did not do it is when you were menstruating or on your moon time, or, on your period, whatever you say. Anyway, so those were one of the things that people need to know about this. But that is a time of reflection. That's a mystical, miraculous time for women, for reflux, in there. Now, one of the things too, and I want to talk, I was just showing one of the girls how to make a yoni pearl. We'll go into that as well, like homemade stuff here. So again, what is that tying us into? It ties into who we are. It ties into our identity as men and as women. And the only, difference I would do if I had it for a guy is basically I used to use just, I would put a little towel here or something, just in case, so that the penis or the scrotum didn't get like dip the wick sort of thing. So sometimes what I'll just do is put an extra little towel or a little flap against here. And then that way, that basically just went up into the perineum or into they call it an A steam for men too, anal steam, or a P steam for prostate. So one of the other ones I've done as well is, let's say if this was a toilet, for say, you've lifted up your toilet seat, and basically if you've got like a thin towel, what you can do, this is more what we call a sitz bath. You would put your herbs, oils, and teas in here and literally countersink it, and then put your toilet seat down. So that's called a sitz bath. You can also get plastic ones. I'm not the biggest one on plastic, but it is what it is. Something is better than nothing. So whatever you're deficient in, you can put in minerals, vitamins, salts, whatever you want. Open up capsules. There's another way to take that, is to actually steam some of your herbs and supplements or tinctures. So the idea is just to bring it to a low, little boil, like just get it simmering. And that's the idea. You just want it simmering. And the idea is that when you're sitting with this and you put your blanket around the back here, right? Because that's what you're trying to do, is get it around the back so that you're creating basically a sweat lodge. Everything is covered up in the back. And then that way everything is being trapped inside, right? So there you go. That's actually the secret to it, is that you've got to have the towel or the blanket to wrap around you, right? It's kind of like a muumuu. There are different, they call them the goddess gowns or whatever, or the empress gowns, or the emperor and the empress gowns. You will see this even going back to the Ming Dynasty. They were using this. There isn't anything. I can say chayok, I can say bannock, I could say vagina, and I can say yoni. And I can speak vagina in a lot more languages too, if you care to hear them. But that's what we're doing. And that's the purpose. So what am I going to use that for? I'm going to use that for people that have got depression, anxiety, stress, overload of candida, yeast. You can put some baking soda and borax in it, or magnesium salts, and start alkalizing yourself slowly every day. And that's the other thing I didn't mention, is that, let's say I actually, steamed up here or did a press or whatever you want to do, but I boiled up, let's say, somewhere about 6-8 cups. Well, reserve some of those, because these are a great way also to use for enemas. And again, see how I've got, I don't know if you guys can see here, but I've actually put some of my borax and salts and all sorts of things in here ready for the next one, right? And then I would just put that warm tea in, and you can hang it from a drawer or from the doorknob or something like that. Just grease up your end, put in your 4 cups in here, nice and warm, just like it would be jumping into a bath, and grease this up well, about 2-3 inches. And you can see there's little holes in here. They have little holes, and there you go. Okay, so that's it. That's how exciting this is. Didn't know it was going to be that complicated. No. People make things too complicated, And so we've got to go back in and do some of these. So I wanted to share that as ideas with you. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. You can certainly put them in the comments underneath. Oh, look at that. So those are some of the great things in here. So, once you see some of what's going on, those are a great way to look at things. like I said, there's no right or wrong way to doing this. People make, like I said, things way, way too complicated. So I'm glad, that that's working out for a lot of people in there because, like I said, you've got to be able to have that, flexibility. And this is one of the oldest forms in here. So if you're on my Facebook, go to my Facebook. I've done a couple other things here, but I did entire albums and stuff with people there. So anyway, that's what makes it really, really exciting. So I'm going to put that actually, that particular album for you in, because a lot of people don't realize that I've spent literally years putting together some of these different albums for you so that you guys can learn. I'm the first one to think that we should be passing it down from woman to woman, from, community to community, from clan to clan, tribe to tribe. It should not have to be something that you have to pay for. A lot of this stuff, water is free. It's a universal solvent. And when you get it into a steam form, it's absolutely amazing. I just had one of the girls, like I said, I just had a client here. She just came off this chair and, she was in excruciating pain. This is something that you use for back pain, fibro, all sorts of things. Like people just don't realize the far magnitude of what we can do, and it's simple little things like that. I think it's just amazing. And I have a lot of couples. She started laughing. I said, I have lots of couples that have his and her chairs. And they actually do this before bed. They will play backgammon, or they will play, crib or something like that, or Yahtzee, whatever. Or just sit there and read a book. But I have lots of couples that do it together. And yes, it's an aphrodisiac. Yes, it brings longevity. And yes, it increases the libido. And yes, like I said, it's like revirginizing. So whether you're going to do it as a facial steam, a full body smudge steam, this is basically how to do steam herbal smudges. It's really, really been such a lost art. I can't get over how many people are now coming on board. I can go to Saskatoon, Calgary, and you're starting to see not only women that do it, like in energy centers, in Reiki centers, in holistic hair salons are starting to do that, which is great, because there are thousands and thousands of people that are now catching on to this. And we have a couple schools. So I've been to 2 out of the 4, and no necessity to go to all of them, but I studied the rest anyway. Most of this is on YouTube for free, right? Go look up yoni steams, vaginal steam chairs, vaginal steam saunas, however you want to do that. And then you can start taking a look at this. So I'm going to put my Facebook media site on here, right? And I put it under the vSTEAM's aphrodisiac couple steams, right? Because it's a steam massage. It's a steam reflexology. And it's literally yoni luxury. Okay, so 2 of the schools that I went to, the first one on the West Coast is actually called Steamy Chick Institute. And Kelly Garza does that. And she's done lots of different things. So you can go to Steamy Chick Institute. And she's got a lot of stuff for Steaming 101. So if you have questions or what you want to do you want to start with the 20-minute steam, or what do you want to do? The other one I just love, Lisa Kelly is amazing. She's over there in Florida, and she's got her womb school, her healing arts trainings, and she's under redtentwellness.com. So a lot of them have all got supplies, but like I said, you can go to Amazon even, on here. And, I think you can have a lot of fun here. Like, I started playing music and seeing like, wow, what's kind of fun? Like, Caribbean Queen, like some Billy Ocean or something, right? Or you could listen to some jazz or whatever, makes you relax, whether it's solfeggio tones or, you're listening to relaxing music, whatever gets you into that sort of thing. I started listening to a couple of things. I went, I could get Peter Gabriel and get his song called Steam or something. So there's all sorts of things that you can do and enjoy. And why not? You're going to make it what you want. And when you make it yours, you custom it and tailor it to whatever you want to go into. So that's it. And how's Deanie doing this evening? Whoa, she goes, thank God it's Friday. Hi, Karen. Stars, hats, and everything else too. That's cool. So those are some of the things I really wanted to sort of impart into people. And these are things that I want you to basically share within your communities, put on your consciousness pages or your healing arts pages or wherever it is that you think you need to do. So, of course, I took it to another level. Karen always does. So when I started working with different biofeedbacks, and I had all these incredible trays and stuff like to do, I started making all my different elixirs. So I would put my herbs, oils, essential oils, or my yoni, tea bags or whatever. But I thought, why not just do the water? So what I did is I started putting my teas or just even the water directly onto here. And that's what I did. I started hooking them up to whether it's your Rife, your Odyssey, your BioVibe, your Quanta capsule, whatever you might want to do. And one of the things is I started going in and went, this could be really fun. I could start using the Genius on this. And so that's what we did. We started going in and I started playing the frequencies and hooking that in. And then I would leave it for about 10 minutes and then let it actually permeate. Or if you want, you can send me your email and I can send you what's called a Quanta Cap. And I love these Quanta Caps now. I've been really playing with them this month a little bit more. But the Quanta Cap is you get one free week. And then after that, you can either look at getting the app or look at getting just a capsule, or you can go with a therapist, or you can even look at getting your own devices. But in here, what you do is you're going to go and you're going to send me your picture and your voice. I'm going to get that. And then I'm going to go, okay. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a playlist for you. But I can also add in different things like fractals. So I might want to, have a feel-good fractal or whatever I might want to do. And in here, what I'm going to do is I create this playlist. So we're going to put all these items in here. Right now, I've got 225 items. Imagine that. 225 things. So I could have some vitamin E. I could have some essential oils in here. I might be working on the solar chakra. I might be want to work on hormone balancing or pain, whatever it might be. So in here, I can put all my little items, my frequencies. And what you've now done is you've made this like a tuning fork. So right now, I've got 225 tuning forks. So this can work off grid. So once you have the app, you can go off the Wi-Fi. You don't have to have any EMF. You're not doing anything to the cloud. There's no AI or anything weird like that. And what you do is you simply push play. So what we could do is I can hook it up into here, or what I can do is go in there and I can even put, if I have this tea, or put the water on top of the plate for 10, 15 minutes. And what it's doing is it's picking up those frequencies. Now, how cool is that? So I sent my client home today, right? So she was wired up here, earlier, and we put the bracelets and stuff on. So you just have to make sure no one's like, they're not pregnant. And, they're not doing anything injectable or putting up their nose, implanting stuff. And so that was one of the things I did. So we hooked her up with the magnetics and she could feel the energy just going through her. You should have seen by the time I was done here, a massage and steaming today, she walked out of there glowing. She had she doesn't need any blush. Let me tell you, her bronzer. I said, what does that feel like? And for someone that came in, she was in at a level. I said, what's your pain? She goes, 7. And when I said, go look in the mirror, and I said, you don't look like the same woman that came in here that was, pale, gray, dead. You're actually in there. You got a glow on. You got your mojo back on. So, we got her pain down to around a 5. So even if it was just that little bit, right? Every little bit helps. And what I'm finding is that when you're acidic, you can put some bicarbonate. Don't forget to put your alkalizing agents, you guys, if you do biofeedback. Put some baking soda or put some It's Easy caps, out of Suede Hills or whatever you want, or alfalfa or something like that, or, 4 salts or whatever, or pH alkalizing salts and electrolytes. Get your clients alkalized, because what's happening is they're too acidic. And so even putting some baking soda, I said, put in half a teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of borax. And I'm going to tell you something. I was on, I think, 2 or 3 shows yesterday. I was on Typical Skeptic with Rob Khalil. I jumped in on Dorian's at the Mind of Dabuma, and I was in there with about 3-4 people, and Sabrina Wallace was in the chat room, and we were like, blah, 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 right. So she was in the chat. We were all talking back and forth. But one of the things I said is that, as I said, you can see here, and whether you can see a little bit, you see the white crystals? That's the salts and the borax. And what I did is I put a little bit of borax and stuff, a little bit of tea, and I put a drop of peppermint in there and some like lavender and stuff. And what happened in about 3 minutes, guess what happened? I could taste that. I could taste what was in here sitting in my lower colon within about 3-4 minutes. So I think it's amazing. And we welcome. So we have Deanie in here and Greg's in here. And you've got a question to me. He goes, hi, Karen, does the Rife work coincide with the Genius app? I got the multi-wave oscillator, but I haven't put it to use yet. Great question. Okay, so the Rife you can use, and if you got 2-3 devices, you can have your Rife on one and the Genius on the other. Or I will sometimes run them at the same time. It'll sound combobulated, but it's not that bad, actually. And I've been running the Neurovisor at the same time, or I've done the Odyssey and the Genius at the same time. So in here, that's actually what, the playlist looks like. And do remember, and just saying here, when I receive your email, I still have to book you in like a client. I can't do it the minute you get it. So what will happen, I still have to go book you in and do a session for you. And then I will export out a code. So once you get your code, it's going to say import my code. Once you get it from Insight Health Apps, because I've done the work first, goes to them. They give you a special security pass. You plug that in and away you go, just like what we're doing here. And in the interim, what you can do is these custom playlists in here. It tells you will be able to use this playlist once for 7 days for free. Now, one of the things in here, okay, it says two different things, maybe a little hard to see here, but no. Okay, so these two things here says free bonus playlist. There's one that's got some video tones and one that says my chakras. You get to use that right away. So you can just literally hit load. It's going to load it up, and those are sitting in there for you to use. So until your therapist or me gets a hold of you, right now it says I can do each one, or here's your empty tray. I can add all these to the tray and then hit play because I've done the fractals and it will work there. So you do have something to play with for a little bit there. So anyway, those are really cool. I am excited. You should be excited. If I'm excited, everyone should be excited. So anyway, those are some of the different things in here. But we really wanted to get you in so that you could, take a look at this kind of stuff and, see what's available, see what we can do, and, make some informed decisions. So we're going to go take a look here. And like I said, there are so many things out there. It's not even funny that you can be playing with, so don't hesitate to use some of this. Okay. Even if you just steam for 20 minutes, I used to steam for 2 hours. I used to watch Cirque du Soleil with my girlfriend and their family and their husbands and stuff. And we'd all sit on the deck with our own chairs, just like, watching a game. We were watching that. So those are some of the interesting things that you might want to take a look at. So on here, we're going to take a look and let me know if you can see the moniteur. I'm going to go in here and hopefully it will show up here and allow us to do that. That would be so nice. Anyway, one of the things in here, there are so many different ideas that, you can use. So I don't know if you have any questions. So Greg, he says, cool, thank you. So you got the idea. So hopefully I conveyed that appropriately. And, you got what, I was trying to intend to get you. So one of the things in here as well is to go in and we're going to look at my entire screen here for a second, and hopefully you'll be able to see it here. So I'm going over to my Facebook. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. Let me know in the chat room if you are. I'll check back in a minute. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. Anyway, so one of the things in here is basically I've got Karenann MacDonald. Go under my photos and go to the one that says vSTEAM's Aphrodisiac Couples. And I'm so excited to be here today because I lost this page again today. And it has got to be a record that I got it back within probably 8 hours today. I was amazed. But anyway, we're back floating again. And I really want to thank the people that have joined me. Like, I cannot get over, on my other inner data group. So a lot of people don't realize I have an inner circle as well, too. And it's called Karen Lusick McDonald Data Share Intel Truth Groups. I was at 2,100 less than 2 weeks ago. Okay, that's like 700 people have showed up in here, and literally there it goes again. Every time I go in, there's like people coming in from all over. So we're checking to see what's going on in here. You got to let me know, or make a message or something like that. But in here, and I love the comments. Someone posted a thing, talking about truth or talking about this, or I've been following you, but now I heard about this. And, people are telling me about you. And I went, wow, this is like really huge. I thought this is amazing stuff to go into. So anyway, word's getting out. And actually several of them, if you can imagine, what they told me? They said, Facebook recommended you. I went, wow, it's great. They recommended me. They pulled me down for 8 hours today, but apparently I now passed their security. So I'm now acceptable by them. Again, that's the third time in 2 months. But anyway, so we're at the vSTEAM aphrodisiac couple thing here. One of the things I suggest in here is to look at, as I said, there is something called the Steamy Chick directory. And there is also something called the Institute, How to Look at Stuff 101. And then there's another one in here called Red Tent Wellness. So all of these are available to you. Okay, so I want you guys to take a look at this and see how simple this is. I want you guys to look at here. See where it says, where does vaginal steaming or yoni steam, or for guys, an A-steam come from? It's widespread, and I want you to see every just about area. Look at the amount of people here. It's mind-blowing when you open it up and see how many people are actually using this and have clinics. Okay? Everyone should have at least one or two in their home. I've had people put them here. They can be end tables. They can be planters. I've seen people convert things like you would never know what it's really being used for. There's lots of steaming available. As I said, Kelly Garza, there's sometimes where people do 3-4 days in a row. There are practitioners all over the planet. I mean, we cover everywhere. Okay, so it may not be in your area, but why do you need a therapist? You should all have one in your home. There should be, like I said, minimum to do this. So anyway, health topics you can talk. Is it about doing it for fertility? Is or dysplasia? Is it for adults, peds? I've done pets, like I said, endometriosis, fibroids, candida yeast fungus. So there's a whole plethora of information. And what are these benefits, right? Well, and again, when you not do it, I said when you're menstruating, right? Or you're bleeding or something like that, or something's going on. So these are some of the different things in here. So like I said, the benefits in here, right? And they're not going to teach you this in the medical community. They're not going to teach you this at all. So, all these things are available, and it shows you different things here. So is there a benefit for men? Absolutely. These are the people that are not getting cancer and prostate cancer and having erectile dysfunctions or having, premature ejaculations. Okay, so they're used for men. It tells you here. There's all the articles, by the way. And I was doing this for years before this came up, right? So one of the things in here, like I said, it's been used in Asia for, as long as I can remember, right? Some of the other things in here too, like colon cancer, hemorrhoids, all this. So it's got really nothing to do with just one thing or the other. So if you don't know, do take a look. There's lots of different articles in here. Okay, there is no lack of information here for where to steam, how to steam, why you want to steam, can you steam every day? You can. Some people actually like to do it almost every day except when they're menstruating. They just find it relaxing for post-traumatic stress, for depression, for anxiety, special things for shedding. A lot of people, they'll put essential oils on, they will use incense, they will take their showers and everything else, or all sorts of things, but they steam. And that's the biggest thing is people forget is the power of the steam. So those are one of the ones here. So let's just scoot over to Lisa's thing here. There's Red Tent Wellness. And again, what about is in here? So do you want to do hydrosols, moxibustion? Do you want to look at steaming herbs and machines? Again, Amazon has these machines as well. Okay, so there's all sorts of different machines and different discs you can get. So she has the Shakti spot there, which is very similar to what you can get onto Amazon. So, but in here, like I said, what is the number one herb people have been using in the last 5 years? What replaces ivermectin and fen and ben and everything else? You're looking at it right there. Artemisia, 2 different forms of it. So do you have to go buy from someone else? No. You can go off Amazon. You can go pick it. How many people, what is Artemisia really called? Wormwood. What was your thing in the scriptures? Wormwood, Chernobyl, Artemisia. Okay, so there are a lot of things, like I said, you can just go to any health store. I can go to any local health store and get that. So if it's something you want to do or sign up to her womb school or get trained, a lot of us do actually other things like navel candling, all sorts of things. And cupping, abdominal massage, all sorts of things, or moxibustion. So another thing people have done is rather than having the steam here, they've gotten their smudge bowls, or they actually put a lot of stuff like their sweetgrass and their cedarwood and their tobacco. Okay. Tobacco could be steamed. Did anyone think of that other than me? I've been steaming. You can steam with tobacco in here. So rather than making a tobacco patch or making a tobacco tincture, you could put tobacco in here as well, and cedarwood and sage and sweetgrass. Okay, so those are some other options as well. Like, what is that? Is that not cool? Okay, so Greg's got a question, and it says, so it steams our privates as well. And you think that's funny, but yes, we do. Okay, and in all those ones, I'm going to show you some of the pictures here. We'll go back to that as well. So I'm glad you guys are actually seeing this and getting the benefit of what I'm doing here. This is great. So let's go back into my Facebook. Okay, so we've got your information here. So we've got where to go. Let's look at some of these things here. So there's Amazon. Did anyone think to look? There's Amazon.ca.com. Look at all the chairs. People have made thrones. They've made cutouts. Okay, all sorts of stuff here. So it's not rocket science, on here. And then going into, let's just scoot down here. Okay, so all these different ideas are absolutely brilliant here, right? So again, this is where you can use, and you see I've got a steam sheet. I can also do it here with opening up acupuncture meridians. I can put Noje frequencies into the water. You can use your biofeedback while you're doing this. So I've actually done it where I've been actually steaming for an hour, and instead of, bracelets, you can put the bracelets on you, but I've also put them on my feet, right? And ran that energy up through me as well. I actually have done some clients where I've been doing vaginal steaming or, steam smudging chairs and used the neurovisor with them. They just loved it, actually. It's my new thing. So again, here's some short ones. I always suggest, I really don't like myself when they're 12 or 14 inches. My gosh, if you want to sit in a yoga position, that's fine. But most of us, be at a chair level. You want to be comfortable, especially want to be there for half an hour or something like that, right? So like I said, you can do a little 10-minute sitz bath if you want. But really, after half an hour, 40 minutes, it's getting into the blood system. You're noticing a therapeutic effect, right? Here's the thing when we're talking about the exhibition. So this is where people were burning like incense or their mugwort or motherwort or whatever they wanted. So you can do that and get the moxie energy going through. So you're actually going through those acupuncture meridians and the delicate tissue. This is something, it was funny. Today I was listening to someone, I had a lot of actually his clients. It was Dr. Gerald Wolf when he was in Kelowna before he moved to Extampa down to Mexico. And I was just happened to catch him today. He was talking about, colonics and how it does. And he was saying, he says it all comes down to that colon. And he said, do people not realize that you're in the vagina or the rectum, you're absorbing 500 times what you are in your mouth through the digestive system? And he's right. I've been saying that since forever and ever. And so these are actually entering into the body from the root chakra. So you're going into the infrared and then you're moving up the energy. So it's kind of like an oil change, which I really like. So one of the things in here, look at this, 5 pieces of wood. There you go. This actually collapsed and they just flattened down to virtually nothing. These are some camping toilets. I've got girlfriends that do that because they have it on their boat and they want to be discreet, or they've got a foldable little portable eco toilet. Okay. This is something I want to talk about. You can see how someone's doing just a sitz bath version again. You can put it into a tea bag and you can also put it there. The other thing I started talking to people about was actually what's going on using cheesecloth or a fine fabric that's unbleached. And one of the things here, you can buy them, but they're really, really small. They literally are about the size of glacettes, raisins, or a little grape. But in here, I really like using these. I can also put them into the belly button. Okay, I've put herbs in there. Some put urine therapy, some put essential oils, castor oil, whatever. But you can also put it that way. You can also flatten it out and put it against your feet and saran wrap them at night. But this is the vaginal pearl. So it has, when you unwind it, it's got like about a 6/8 inch string. Do not cut the string. Make sure your string is there. Okay, so some people will even put 2, 3 because they're so small. But when I make mine, I just get some open cheesecloth and do it and make it probably the size of about 3 of these little things. I just like it better. So anyway, these are some of the different things. Take a look at the clinics here. Okay, Look at all the different herbs and oils you can choose from so you can have your tea and drink it and steam it at the same time. Okay, these are little different chairs. They actually, not only the steam comes up through the perineum, through the root chakra, but it also comes up through the feet. So it's a pull-out drawer. And in the drawer, what they use is an electric skillet as a rule. And then they put in, like, your amethyst crystals, herbs and oils, and everything else that you would. But these are really nice chairs. They're also worth about $4,000. So, like I said, you can, leave it to Beaver or you can go make your own. Anyway, there is the Hollywood Housewives. And again, the doctors are using it. Okay. These clinics in the States, by the way, in California are for doctors by doctors on the Hollywood Housewives, right? So that's where you're paying $100 to $200 to steam there with their cute little like komodos. Anyway, so there we go. Everything's all marble. You pay for that. And like I said, I find actually I prefer to have a cedarwood one or something like this. So again, we're talking about what can women do? Detox pearls, vaginal sticks, vaginal gels. So you can make your own suppositories. And these can go vaginally or rectally, the steams. Menstrual cups. A lot of people are getting into Diva cups now. They're making their own sanitary herbal pads because everyone knows there's GMOs and graphene and everything that was in the facial masks is now just about in all your toiletries and grooming supplies, men and women. So they're going into, organic sanitary napkins as well, or moon pads. They're putting colloidal silvers in there and different things along like that. And then using your teas for whichever way you want to go. There, again, you're seeing a close-up. See how long I've been doing this? It's been years. But anyway, that was actually in 2020, 2019 there. So you can see I was just using a mixture of stuff. So, and again, that was an induction one that I used. I prefer to have it quiet. Some people like to have the induction one. It's whatever floats your boat there. And as I talked about, you don't have to have a round hole. In this case, someone made, whatever different shapes you want to go into, and again, is it for menopause? It's for whatever age you are. Okay. And, if you get some benefits of feeling a little tighter, a little more fertile and less postpartum or menopausal symptoms or PMS, why not? In here. So one of the things as well, like take a look here, and these are the sitz baths. Like I said, you can buy these on Amazon and there's definitely YouTubes for everything. I want you to see also as well, when you're putting suppositories in or your yoni pearls, you're not going up into anything. You're staying in the lower couple inches. So like I said, that's why you can make even elongated ones. I'm not a big one unless you've got organic fabrics right in there. So your Kotex and your Playtex and all those are deadly contaminating, causing women cancer. And again, I just wanted to show you this. I just wanted you to get a visual on how many people are registered even to these yoni vaginal steam schools. Okay. Those are just the clinics, but like I said, every woman, we should be plastering this all over the place. And again, the Bannock's and stuff like this came actually from Russia, by the way. So, just because their school isn't there doesn't mean those women aren't doing it, because they are. They've been doing Bannock's forever. So again, there's another idea of having a V-spot at home. So you can see how the energy is running up. So basically it's the same thing. It's a little water tray. They threw a tea bag in. Sometimes people will put in amethyst or black tourmaline or whatever crystals you want. And again, wonderful. This is perfect, especially for women, if you've just had a baby and for recovery. Oh my gosh, this is so soothing. But I just like running it anyway, So again, these are some of the different things, again, you can do for, as I said, suppositories or gels, a little bit closer things. So making your own. What's to say that you can't get a stool and just put a foot bath, but do it this way? But again, you got to have that. I said, I want you to put this on. We're having a toga party here today. And they started laughing, right? So that's really what we're doing. We're upgrading that. So again, that is what it's all about. You don't have to be a nurse. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a doula. You do not have to be a midwife. You don't even have to be certified. Who can't do this? Okay. This should be your first line of defense if you think colds, flus, shedding, whatever. This cracks me up. I always have to put it in every talk that I talk about this. It's called the sweet spot in Georgia. So just like you have hair salons, hey, look at those mamas. They know how to have fun, right? So look at that. They're in their moo gowns, right? And so this is amazing. So all those chairs are actually vaginal steam chairs. Okay. So again, you can do it individually, collectively, groups, that sort of thing. These are also electric ones you can get. And again, there's lots of videos on there. They're just hilarious in there, getting their vSTEAMs and the VJ things going on. So again, enjoy it. I've tried using some things, just heated. I always found that the hot plate was better. I've tried crock pots. Don't use the electric steamers. You'll be like real sore. But, you want to experiment, go on. And again, there are lots of people that are in the fertility and industry. They're pushing this. They know what it can do, and like I said, once you've been on it about half an hour, people just like absolutely adore it. So you can actually buy some of these. This is on Amazon.com and CA, and it'd be UK and AU and whatever. But again, many different varieties in here. But like I said, you can make your own like I did too. And again, crystals, what do you want to do? We can go into what crystals can you use for the root chakra, the second chakra, or put all 7 crystals in if you want. Look at the music, the sulfidial tones, things like that. So take a look at these, enjoy what we've got out here. There is so much to see. And there are worldwide community platforms and forums that you can learn about. And if you want the science behind it that the medical doctors give, doesn't do squat. We've actually done swabs. Actually, Dr. DeBro that was on there that you saw from California actually did swabs pre and post, and they showed that it really took down the candida and the yeast thing. So there's a close-up again, lift the little skirt there and you see what's, percolating underneath. So like I said, if you're doing it on a carpet, a lot of times I'll use a cutting board, but here someone's just used a towel. So again, I like the single burner. I actually like my single burners to be covered over, but I've used open coils as well. Okay. I have done. So I put this in here so you could see. It was like, should I, shouldn't I, but I should. So in here, I actually had a client that was just about dead. I really don't like this thing. It's like, not that I consider it a failure because it's not my fault. It was their condition, but they were that close to getting, an ambulance. And so what I did is she had a chair and I went, are you attached to this lawn chair that you see there? $5 from Canadian Tire or whatever it was, the dollar store. I said, do you have a sentimental attachment to this chair? And she looked at me like I was off the planet, which I probably am some days, but whatever. And so I took that chair, I got a plate, I got a marker, and I got a pair of scissors, and I put a 6-inch hole there. And within less than 10 minutes, she was sitting on that chair. I had a blanket around her. I had boiled up the herbs, and that woman recovered. Okay. It was a very quick recovery. Like I said, 500 times stronger than putting something down your mouth. It's got some potency kicking behind it. So there's again mine. I love this thing. It's been everywhere. That was my office in Kelowna out on the deck, and there I wanted to put this in. Look at my couples there. I have seen so many couples. They send me pictures. It's just hilarious, right? So there's a couple, and I'm not sure who won the backgammon game, but somebody did anyway. So anyway, we wanted to give you some different ideas there, and hopefully they're kind of, helpful for you. So, and Margaret, did you find this great? You said, Butterfinger's kind of cold here. Great to see you guys. So anyway, those are some things I wanted to talk about this evening. So unless you guys have got any other questions, we're going to close it up here. So we'll give you a few minutes here to see if there's anything you'd like to go into. I'm going to encourage you to take a look at those albums again that I did put on. And, maybe I will just actually go here. So, sometimes I find, if we just take you here and go, what? This is biofield cleaning. This is basically smudging. This is a herbal smudge of the biofield. So like I said, you don't just have to sit on it. You can put your face on it. You can stand over it and just let it clean the biofield. Walk over it, walk through it, in there. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. If you want to get actually, how people would have those saunas and you'd sit in those steam saunas, little chair with their little heads showing up. You can do that. You can make a tent around you. You could do it in the bathroom. You can just do it out open here, which is fine. There is no right or wrong way to really doing it. Just get it to the right temperature. Get it, like I said, warm and misty, not hot and burning. So those are the different things that you just have to keep into mind, and then you'll go from there. So one of the things, let's take a look. I'm going to walk with you here. Okay, because, always I get so many questions, and it'll be the next week, 30 questions. And I thought I covered it, but let's just do that. So let's just go to whatever search engine. Yoni or vaginal steams. Let's just go that way. Go to images. See how I like to go to images? Pictures speak 1,000 words. Oh, we can look at yoni steams, yoni stools, yoni chairs, herbs. Ooh, there's lots of chairs out here. And I didn't even get into the ones. There are stuff you can get on Alibaba. They're about $4,000, by the way. They come with infrared and steam, and you have steam up here, steam up there. It's a total like infrared, like plastic, like, but that's the only reason I don't use it, because it's plastic. But they have them there, right? So again, looking at these different, looks here. So like I said, if you need some ideas, this is where you go. You go to images, right? And so, like I said, you can also put stuff in there, a little bit of baking soda, or use alkaline, like dandelion and stuff like that, or alfalfa teas and things like that, because that will help you also maintain the pH balance as well. So if you've got discomforts or cramps or whatever you've got, right? Even if you're just exhausted, for gosh sakes, like take a look at using some of this stuff. There are so many benefits, like I said, you don't know it till you try it. And again, without saying, use clean stuff, right? So those are some of the different ideas that we have. Like I said, it's not rocket science. It's a 1/4 cup of loose teas or 3 tea bags and put it to about 4 to 6 cups. Boil it up and go there. So let's go. We did looking at our steam. So let's go take a look here and see what we got. Oh, let's get more ideas. Oh, I told you, women do this together. Okay. Get some ideas. I've had people get old chairs from the dollar store or the wood, wood ones or whatever from, whatever era, and just put a hole in it. Okay. Like I said, you start somewhere, and there's the plastic one, which I really don't like, but something is better than nothing. Okay. And look at the stuff. You're seeing a lot of women here in these red tents, in these sauna rooms, right? These steaming boxes are like amazing. They're doing a lot of that. And again, look at these. They can be very decorative. You had this and no one would know what it is later. Like I said, some look like planters. Absolutely. Like there's no question about this here. So those are some different ideas. And again, if you're in a salon, why are you guys having these in your clinics? Right? I know chiropractors, I know reflexologists, I know traditional Chinese medicine or Asian Korean medicine, Russian medicine are all starting to put these into their clinics. Okay? Especially if you got an electric one. Like, the thing is, when you do with the electric one, you only get about 20 minutes. Where if I've got a hot plate, I can sit there for hours and hours and hours and hours. So again, there are some different ones in here. Happy bums, happy bums. And this is where I really got into talking about doing, like I said, if you've got someone, a young, youth or a child or, pediatrics, yeah, have a little stool. But for most of us, you want to have that comfort level up in there, that you're getting into, 14 to 20 some inches. Depends what it is. So like I said, even if you're just steaming and you don't have the hot plate, there it is. Now there's the Alibaba one. I was not joking, you guys. Okay. Look at this. And I can go all the way back to the Ming Dynasty and show you the emperors where they had gold and organite, like gold and silver and precious jewels in, their setups. Right? In the steam rooms, like the Roman baths and the Roman steam rooms. So again, these are some of the different ideas I just wanted to show you here. Okay. The feminine personal body steamer, the womb steamer in the EU or all over. So like I said, sometimes people think they know what they know till you start looking and investigating. And I started steaming when I was a little girl, by the way. And one of the things I think that, like I said, I just want to bring back to this point. I want you to see how far that's starting to penetrate. And one of the things I told my client is that when you're on it for at least half an hour, it takes about half an hour to start getting in there and you start feeling different. Like you literally feel it working. I've had people after doing it, 4 or 5 times in a row, just all of a sudden that biofilm came out of the guts. All of a sudden, the adhesion they had let go. All of a sudden it was just that one extra time that they had chronic, back pain, lower back pain. It went. And not to say I steamed my knee, you can steam an ankle. Okay. You can steam all different parts, right? Don't just locate it just to, sitting down. So like I said, there are a lot of things you can do on here and you can have cute enough things. Like I said, look how someone put it in here. That's their steam pot and they just put a flower pot. So it looks like, a planter. In plain sight, why not? Right. So take a look at these different ideas. I think this is really some, great ideas to start with. In here. And so again, we looked at the chairs, we looked at the steaming, we looked at the seats. How many seats can you go? What kind of herbs should we do? And then I'm going to go into yoni pearls in here. And again, for men, do you want to use salt pimento? Throw some salt pimento in. If you want it more prostate-y or more male, put some, cedar wood in, and then put some spruce in, and put some more, if you want more woodsy stuff, right? There's no right, no wrong. I use the same thing for men as I do for women, quite frankly. And like salt pimento could be used for women too. They always think it's a male one. No, it's not. No, it's not. So anyway, these are all, look at all the different steam chairs you can go. Okay. Have at it. Ooh, look at this one. It's glowing. Oh, I've never seen it. This is new. Oh, this is new because we haven't got it on .com.ca yet, but you got it on .com. Look at that. Okay, now I'm excited. Let's go look at this, you guys. Okay, so here we go. We have a yoni steam seat, or again, for males. Okay, and a lot of them will come. Can you see that little up here? That's the facial part. So you can put facial or vaginal seat. So you have both choices here. Okay, so for all the colors, and they're going to start doing chakra colors and all sorts of weird stuff. So now it's like gone from like $100 and $150 to like whatever. Okay, so that's a little bit nuts, but whatever. What you're seeing is, again, you put in your little herbs, and that's why I said the only difference with these timers is they're usually, like I said, it's 20 to 30 minutes where I like to steam the other way. So I'm really big on using the hot plate. So that's all it is. But like I said, there's all sorts of stuff when you start looking around, why not enjoy it, right? Back into here, let's look at these things here. What are the benefits of this? Okay, not just miscarriage. It's got nothing to do with just vaginal itching and infections and bacteria and blah, blah, blah. But parasites, everything, tightens stuff. So a lot of people use it for also weight, womb trauma, sexual abuse, ritual abuse. This is my number one thing, by the way. Everything physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Okay, and a lot of women too, as you get older, sometimes things start thinning, skin changes, all sorts of things. You can use ozonate, by the way. I was listening to Dr. Detox today, to Daryl Wolf, and he's talking about what you can do vaginal, and also, as Zish will tell you, who does a lot of stuff. He's one of my guys that looks with the Tesla coils and the violet rays. They have a vaginal one, by the way. They have a rectal and vaginal tube there for plasma, for ozone and stuff. These are things that can be done as well. Dissolving mucus, right? Absorption of minerals and vitamins. Like I said, you can open those up and let it steam up there. So those are just a couple of the different ideas. Does that look like fun, you guys? Everyone's having fun. And like I said, you can go anywhere in the world. Like when you start looking at the Korean ones, and I've looked at stuff from all over, like, over the years, but just so we can get you guys some basic ideas. It's something you can do. Grandma with her grandchildren. This is the stuff that should have been passed down. This is literally a rite of passage. This was part of like literally going in and teaching people what to do. Again, you want to make a slide drawer thing. No one will know what it is. They might think it's a file cabinet, for crap's sakes. You got to pull out drawer version. So like I said, there are so many different things. So I want to thank you for joining me. It's been a great pleasure to be here and be with all of you and assist them. If you have any questions, I'm karenann macdonald, and you can get a hold of me at clanmother13@gmail, and that's with a K, because all of a sudden I got a whole bunch of people. There is a C, clanmother13. Her name's Linda. Don't call her. Okay, but she has to forward all my emails to me. But we have a nice chat every once in a while. And how are things with you? And I see you've done some more shows. She goes, I said yes. Things are going well. I'm glad what you're doing. I'm glad to help. But I actually am with the KLAM. Anyway, so those are kind of funniest things would happen, right? You never know what's going to happen when you're in these kind of things. So the other thing as well, I just want to bring to people's attention. I've talked a little bit about the neurovisor and stuff. I am so getting tired of different people in different communities. They are so scared of technology now. And they assume that, well, this is AI or Genius is AI. It's not AI. You would have to pay for it. It's an analysis intel report. So in other words, it's a report just to give you graphs and stuff like that. So I wish people would start thinking, reading, and using their minds, because I think I've done about 6 pages, and I wish they would actually not use AI on certain things, but that's the way it is right now. And I've had more people again too. I had in the audience when I was on Typical Skeptic and on Dorian's yesterday and talk about castor oil packs and stuff. Again, not using M Blue, not using some of the other things too, because this gets you into trouble, guys. Okay, so those are some of the different things here. So let's keep it all clean and have some fun. You can play with some tuning forks. You can tuning fork the water. Like I said, just frequency do the water, get all the sounds up, get your vibrations up. And that is what I wanted to leave you with. So in here, enjoy this. Like I said, if you haven't done it, try it. Don't knock it ever till you try it. Oh, there's another question there. You're welcome. Castor oil and clove. Yes, you could use that. I would do castor oil myself. But, different things like castor oil and clove. You could use clove in there if you want. I'm not sure we were talking about castor oil. Unless you want to do castor oil packs with it, you could do that. But in here, one of the things as well, like I said, there are so many different variations going in there. I'm just so excited to be, sharing some of this information. It's such like pivotal, basic medicine. We should all be knowing and sharing, out here. Or, send my Facebook and send that album to someone and say, well, what do you think of this? Have you tried it? Did you hear about it? Do you know about these schools? Don't put the onus back on me or you. Ask them if they're aware of it, right? Ask them where to go, and in here, like I said, if you have any questions, there we go. One of the things I kept off there, you don't see all my credentials. One of them is, I could put two of them called PeriSteam Hydrotherapy at PST, PTSD. But anyway, okay, so we do have things in there. Those schools are certifying people. You go from a couple hundred, and I'm only giving you 2 out of the 4. The other 2 schools, they're charging like $2,000 to $4,000 to get some like initials behind, your ID and your name. Not necessary, really not necessary. That's why I want to bring this to your attention, And by the way, I have actually had doctors write orders for this, by the way. I did this in actually palliative cares on the oncology wards and stuff like that for people that had cancer, by the way. This is extremely, and sometimes it is so soothing to people that have got chronic or respite or hospice. I've used a lot of it for that because you know what? They transitioned over without any pain and they love this. A lot of people that had chronic diseases, a lot of people I know that had basically Parkinson's and stuff like that, or diabetic neuropathy and stuff like that. The joints, the knees, all that sort of stuff too. Absolutely. When I broke my knee, as soon as I could get that knee moving, I had it over the chair. Okay. And it sat there steaming. So I made a knee steam. That really helped. And again, we need to look and remember the biofield. So like I said, you can stand over that and just do your smudging. This is biofield smudging, right? Same thing. So, you get your hands going, you get your piloerection, you can do that. And the steam enhances everything. It really does. So anyway, I want to thank you again for joining me. I'm karenann macdonald. Look forward to hearing you. Get a hold of me, and I'm going to enjoy the comments underneath. And you guys have a massively great weekend. And if you have any ideas or you want me to look at you or any of your loved ones, you know how to get a hold of me. Anyway, take care. Thank you.